My name is Elise, and for as long as I can remember, I was the joke in my family. The background noise to my siblings' standing ovations. My sister Harper was the pride of the family, the overachieving Ivy League-bound golden child. My brother Nathan was the tech genius, the young entrepreneur with a trust fund's worth of attention and praise. And then there was me, the creative one, the dreamer, or, as my father often phrased it when guests came over, the one we haven't quite figured out yet. Growing up, family gatherings weren't just dinners, they were full-on performance reviews. Report cards were passed around the table like trophies. Achievements were celebrated with speeches and toasts. When Harper got into Yale, my parents printed banners. When Nathan built a phone app that got 10,000 downloads, my dad gave him the keys to his vintage car for the weekend. When I painted a mural on the wall of my high school that won a statewide award, they didn't even come to the event. But nothing hurt more than that one New Year's Eve dinner when I was just 19. We were gathered at my uncle's massive house. Chandeliers, fine wine, all of it. Every year my uncle would hand out gag awards for fun. I thought maybe, just maybe, this time I'd get something that didn't make my skin crawl. Harper received most likely to become a senator. Nathan got most likely to buy us all a yacht. Then my uncle held up mine, chuckling, and read aloud, most likely to move back in and ask for rent money. My father howled with laughter. My mother literally clapped. My cousins wheezed, and someone actually muttered, "That one's too accurate." It stung in a way I didn't even have words for back then. My heart sank, but I smiled. That's what I'd been trained to do. Smile. Take the joke. Swallow the humiliation like lukewarm champagne. They had no idea that joke would burn itself into my bones. I went to my room that night and stared at myself in the mirror. Red eyes, silent tears, and a whisper in my own head I hadn't heard before. You have to get out. You have to become something. The next few years were like walking uphill with a mountain on my back. I dropped out of college after 2 years. I couldn't afford it anymore, and my parents refused to co-sign any loans. We already spent enough on Harper's law school, my mother said flatly while stirring her tea. My father chimed in, "Let's be honest, Elise, art degrees don't feed you." So I fed myself. I picked up every gig I could find. I was a part-time barista by morning, a freelance graphic designer by night, and in between shifts, I painted. On walls, on canvases, on glass, on furniture, on anything that would take paint and emotion and turn it into rent. My first apartment was barely bigger than a closet. The windows didn't open. I couldn't afford real groceries most weeks, but it was mine, my space, my rules. When I sent a photo of my first rented studio to the family group chat, no one responded, not even a thumbs up. But 2 hours later, I saw my mother post a picture of Harper in front of a courthouse with the caption, "So proud of our girl making real moves." It wasn't just being ignored, it was being invisible. The turning point came when one of my murals, painted on the side of a quiet little bookstore downtown, went viral. A woman took a photo of it and tweeted, "Whoever painted this understands heartbreak in color." That tweet racked up over 150,000 likes overnight. Suddenly, people wanted to know who I was. My Instagram exploded. Commissions came in faster than I could keep up. Still, I said nothing to my parents. I hadn't heard from them in nearly a year. I guess they thought I was still floundering somewhere, waiting for someone to come rescue me. But I wasn't drowning. I was quietly building an empire. By the time I was 25, I'd licensed artwork to 5 companies, had 3 solo exhibitions, and owned the building my studio was in. But I still remembered every insult, every joke, every moment I was overlooked. Especially the day my mother had looked me in the eye and said, "Not everyone is meant to shine, Elise, and that's okay." No, Mom, it wasn't okay. Because now, I wasn't just shining, I was blinding. My revenge didn't come with shouting matches or dramatic confrontations. It came in silence, in subtle power shifts, in building a world so elevated they couldn't reach me anymore, only watch. After the mural went viral, I made it a point never to forget where I started. I painted emotions, Raw, messy, honest emotions. Loss, rejection, worthlessness. Everything my family had made me feel became color and canvas. And that pain? It sold. People connected to it. They said it felt like I'd painted their own buried wounds. Celebrities started buying my work. A hotel in Paris commissioned me for an entire lobby wall. My name became a whisper in the art world, then a roar. I didn't go back home. I didn't call. But I heard things through extended relatives. Apparently, Harper was struggling to pass the bar. Nathan's app had flopped, and he was back living with our parents, who, by then, were trying to sell their house due to financial strain. That same house, the one where they used to host champagne dinners, where they once laughed at me for being most likely to fail, came up in conversation during a real estate dinner party. I almost choked on my wine when I heard my parents' address mentioned casually by a wealthy couple who were looking to invest in property. Old place? Gorgeous bones. Needs a buyer who sees potential, their realtor said. I saw the potential. A week later, without telling anyone, I made an offer. A cash one. No loans, no questions. My name, Elise Monroe, was on the paperwork, but under the LLC name of my studio. My parents had no idea. All they knew was someone had finally bought their home after months of struggle. I signed every document with a hand that remembered the sting of being dismissed. I didn't evict them. Not yet. Instead, I let the lease sit for a month, quiet, watching. Then I sent a letter. Dear occupants, it read, as the new owner of this property, I wanted to inform you that renovations will begin soon. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. Thank you. My mother called me that night. I hadn't heard her voice in almost 2 years. Elise? She said cautiously, like saying my name might summon a different person than the one she once shamed. Is it true? Did you buy the house? I let the silence settle like fog. You always said I'd move back in to ask for rent money, I finally said. Guess I just bought the whole place instead. But where will we go? She whispered. I didn't answer. The next month, I watched from across the street as moving trucks hauled their lives into cardboard boxes. My father looked smaller than I remembered. My mother, pale and tight-lipped, gave one last glance to the house that raised me and ruined me. But my revenge wasn't complete. Not yet. I turned the house into something beautiful. I hired interior designers and restored the structure, but I left one room exactly how it used to be. My childhood bedroom. Same bed, same cracked mirror, same awards I had once hung and no one noticed. I kept it like a monument, a reminder that from that forgotten corner, something powerful was born. And then came the final piece. I held my first public gallery show inside that house. Invitations went out to the press, influencers, artists, and yes, my family. All of them. I didn't think they'd come, but they did. Harper arrived first, dressed in expensive desperation. Nathan followed, silent. My parents came in last, dressed too formally like they were trying to fit into a world they never believed I could touch. They walked past walls of my work, portraits of faceless girls painted in shades of grief, canvases soaked in scarlet and ash. People whispered, journalists took photos. Then I stepped out, in a tailored midnight suit, no longer invisible, no longer begging to be seen. The applause was thunderous, but my eyes went straight to my parents standing there as guests, no longer hosts, no longer superior. You made it, I said softly, after all this time. My mother looked like she wanted to cry. We didn't know you were this worthy, I finished for her. Valuable? Beautiful? She nodded. I leaned in and smiled. You were right, you know. I wasn't meant to shine in your world. I built my own galaxy instead. They left early, but I stayed. That night, I stood in the very room I had once been mocked in and signed a canvas that read in bold, bright paint, most likely to own it all. The gallery show was supposed to be the end, the closure, the full circle moment everyone dreams of. But healing doesn't always arrive with applause. Sometimes it whispers when no one is looking, and it waits until you're alone again. A week after the exhibition, I returned to the old house, now my studio. It had changed, but the air still held echoes. My bedroom smelled like cedarwood and possibility. The backyard, once cluttered with rusted lawn chairs and my father's barked orders, was now a sculpture garden. I was sitting in the sunroom sketching in charcoal when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, my mother stood there, alone. She didn't look like the woman who once laughed at my dreams or said I was most likely to beg for handouts. She looked smaller, almost aged by grief she didn't know how to name. "I didn't come to fight," she said, holding something wrapped in fabric. "I found this, thought you might want it." It was my 4th grade art ribbon, the one I won for a crayon drawing titled "Invisible Girl Under the Sun." I hadn't seen it since I was 12. They'd tossed it in a drawer, called it cute once, and never mentioned it again. I took it from her hands, slowly. "Why now?" I asked. My mother swallowed. "Because I don't know who I am without you, without this house, without someone to blame. And because," she paused, "I read the quote on your last painting." She was talking about the centerpiece of the gallery, the one that made people cry. A painting of a girl standing in a storm, her spine made of glass, her hands open to the sky. Beneath it, I had written, "I was not built for your approval. I was born for my own peace." My mother's voice cracked. I think I finally understand what that means. I didn't hug her. I didn't cry. But I didn't slam the door either. I simply nodded and said, "Understanding comes late sometimes. But at least it comes." That night, I sat on the back porch alone. I looked out at the city skyline, far beyond the house I now owned, the family I outgrew, and the scars I turned into brush strokes, and that's when the final piece of the puzzle revealed itself. My phone buzzed. A call from Paris. It was the Louvre. They wanted a piece. A permanent one. A tribute to women who were once invisible. I stared at the screen and laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was surreal. Because they had laughed at me. Because they called me a failure, a loser, a girl with no spine, no light, no voice. And now, the world was listening. The next morning, I walked to the giant dining room wall of the house, the one where they had hung our family portrait for years, a portrait I had always been excluded from. I stood there for a moment, staring at the faded nail in the wall. Then I hung my own photo there. Not of me as a child, not of me with my parents. It was a magazine cover, Forbes Women, featuring me, Elise Monroe, in bold letters beneath the title, "The Girl Who Turned Mockery into Millions." And right underneath it, I placed a single handwritten note. It read, "They called me most likely to fail. So I bought the walls they mocked me in." Then I walked out, not in anger, not in pain, but in power. Because true revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply smiles, from the top.